Good morning. How are
Hey,
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. And good morning to everybody who is joining us live this morning. It is Tuesday, November 15th, 2022, live from beautiful, kind of snowy and very cold 29-degree day here in Omaha, Nebraska. My name is Jen Chaney. I'm the Vice President of Franchise Development for Right at Home. I'm going to be visiting with our CEO here in a moment, Margaret Haynes, and I'll let her take the stage here in just a moment. But a couple of housekeeping items first. We love audience participation. So if you are joining us live, I highly encourage you to ask a question. You can do that by clicking on the Q&A button, either at the top or bottom of your Zoom screen, depending on how it's set up. And you can type in a question. There's also a box that you can click that says anonymous. If you don't want people to know your name, that's certainly fine. It's up to you if you want to click that box or not. But we love questions. So as Margaret and I are visiting, if a question comes up, don't be afraid to type it in, and I'll make sure that I get it asked over the course of the next 30 minutes. Okay, Margaret.
Yes.
All right. I took some notes before our call to make sure that I wanted to address a couple of things, but why don't we just start again? I said it's November 15th, 2022. The year is coming to a close, which it sounds so weird even saying that it's November.
Yeah.
But can you just give our listeners just kind of a very broad general update on how Right at Home has done here in 2022, Right at Home and just the home care business in general? Just a very kind of a State of the Union address as to what's going on in this industry and in this business.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. So, 2022 has been a great year. So certainly people will argue, are we out of the pandemic or not? But as a network, we continue to build back to pre-pandemic levels in terms of hours. Certainly from a revenue perspective and the amount of services that are being provided, that has increased. Some of that is tied to increased pay rates, which increase bill rates. So that's part of it. But the network is very strong and very healthy. We've continued to add additional locations this year. We're actually ahead of the goal that we set, which I know is near and dear to your heart, Jen.
It is.
So yeah, we're really excited that we continue to expand our footprint. So not only from a franchise distribution channel, but we've also expanded our footprint from a company-owned perspective, which is wonderful because it's with those two channels that really makes us an incredibly strong brand, because we've got the franchise channel, which is the primary channel that we've been building up since the brand started in 2000 or 1995 and started franchising in 2000. And then we started doing company owns back in 2019 to really build out a base that would allow us to have test kitchens, for lack of a better term, so that we could try some different things as the industry is changing and maneuvering, try some things in our test kitchens before bringing them to the broad franchise network. That way, we can let the system focus on growing in their local communities and then bring to them proven things that we've tested out that continues to elevate the overall growth. But if I had to sum up 2022, I would say it's been a great year. So we're, as an overall system, we're ahead of our goal from a revenue perspective. And as I mentioned, we're ahead of our goal from a distribution perspective in terms of footprint. But that's not to say we don't have challenges as well, right? So We're still coming out of the pandemic. So we still are building back on the number of hours across the network, but we have got a very energized and motivated network that's continuing to bring the Right Home mission to life.
Yes. And I'm going to toot my own horn here for just a moment. Allow me to do so. So Margaret mentioned the corporate owned footprint and our reasons for wanting to do that and expanding that. Brand new franchise owners, just like the people that are listening to this call right now, we've had a lot of those this year. Brand new owners purchasing brand new territories and expanding our footprint by means of these brand new owners, which we love. In addition to that, existing franchise owners, these are tenured owners, and no secret, coming off the heels of a couple of challenging years. So these are tenured franchise owners who have a positive outlook and they're excited about expanding their business. So we do have plenty of existing franchise owners who are expanding their business by purchasing new territories as well, which it's an excellent combination of both new and existing franchise owners that are growing this business. I love to see both.
Yeah, and I
So
think,
just wanna
Jen,
throw
just
that
real
out there.
quick, I think it's a great testament to the fact of the business model itself, and that it can weather these tough things like a pandemic, which who would have predicted that, right?
That's right.
And yet we still have owners that have gone through that are saying, and I want to get even deeper into the brand. I want to get deeper into building out the business and touching more communities with that mission that we have. And I think that, again, speaks really highly to the industry and specifically to Right at Home and the way in which this brand has been built.
Yes. And another thing that I would like to note, for those of you that are listening, you're like, gosh, how do I purchased my initial territory. One day, someday, if I want to expand my business, how do I do that? We have an excellent program in place where our franchise owners work with their business performance coach on a plan of attack on, are you ready to expand your business? So it's not like you just decide, I think I want to buy that territory next to me and, yep, sign here and you're off to the races. That's not quite how it works. We want to make sure that you are in a position to expand operationally, financially, the health of your business. So you're going to have a great partnership with your coach and the operations team on how to do that. So just be looking forward to that, I suppose. Okay, so I'm going to kind of shift gears a little bit. I don't see any questions yet, so I'm going to shift gears. We have something this afternoon called a town hall meeting. Mm-hmm. Maybe just explain to our listeners what a town hall is, why we do them. And then I know I looked ahead, I cheated on some of the agenda items for this afternoon's town hall. Which we are going to be talking about, I believe, the Caregiver of the Year program. Just a reminder to our franchise owners that is out there, a status update on that. And then I've got a couple of other things, but I'll wait for that. I'm looking at my list. So let's just start with the town hall. What is that and why do we do it?
Yeah, so a town hall is, we typically will do them at least once a month when it's a broad category. We also do specific topic related town halls, but it's an opportunity through Zoom, like we're on right now, for the entire network, the franchise owners, to get onto Zoom and interact with the leadership team and the different department leaders, talking about, okay, well, what's coming up in terms of maybe a new program rollout, or maybe a change that a new enhancement that's being made from a technology perspective with the operating software that they want to highlight for our owners. It's a way to stay connected, but we use it as an opportunity to highlight some of our great owners that are out there across the network. So for example, you mentioned Caregiver of the Year. So yes, we're in the middle of actually getting nominations right now across the entire network. And we have a Caregiver of the Year program in which there's one caregiver identified in each of the 8 regions, and then also a national. And we actually get to celebrate them at our annual meeting that we have in the spring. We call that Home Improvement. But it's so wonderful, this Caregiver of the Year program, because it's an opportunity not only for the individual owner to recognize a caregiver that is just going above and beyond day in and day out for their clients and really highlight that incredible care that they're providing. But it also gives us an opportunity as just an overall network to share some great mission moments and really what's happening across the network. So we actually have one of the franchisee who's Caregiver of the Year last year is actually going to be on our town hall. So she will talk about what it meant for her and her office and ultimately her caregiver in terms of winning that award. And so town halls are a great way for us to just stay in touch with each other and share best practices from both sides, those operating in their local communities right now, what are best practices that they've identified, as well as things that are coming from the corporate office. And so we love having that opportunity to engage through Zoom.
Great. And there was a point to me asking that question. I wanted to call out that prior to the pandemic, how often did we have these town hall meetings?
Yeah, sadly, I would say that we tried to do them quarterly, and maybe sometimes that would hit or not. And now we actually do them for sure once a month, where it's the whole group coming together. But as I mentioned, we also have those special topic webinars that are also happening throughout the month. So there's things around the employee experience and where it is a lot of best practice sharing, or around clinical excellence and clinical quality. There's webinars that are specific to those topics as well. Yes.
And marketing. I just looked at the calendar. There are several marketing webinars that happen throughout the month as well. But just want to reinforce that point. Once a month, we get together with all of our franchise owners on a huge Zoom call. We have a packed agenda talking about items that impact our franchise owners, wanting their feedback, their participation, announcement of new programs. It's just awesome. The communication that I feel like has drastic, not that was terrible before, but man, we are so great with communication with our franchise owners, not only via these town hall meetings, but then even follow-up information after that. Email sent recapping the town hall, and then the place, that a central place that they can all go to for all the resources that we've referred to in the town hall. So yes, town halls, love those. Obviously, I wanted to make sure that I brought that up since we do have one this afternoon.
Yeah, and Jen, another key, real quick, just another
Okay.
key thing about the town halls is we do record them as well, because we recognize that not everybody can participate when they're scheduled. And so that's another, it goes into that repository that you mentioned. So then if they're not able to listen to it, they can always go back later at their own availability and still get the same information.
Yes. Okay. Got it. So as I was yapping, two questions have come in. Okay. So this first one, I'm just going to read it word for word.
Okay.
I think it'll be an easy answer. It says, hi there. With some of the competitors moving to corporate owned models, call options, and potentially signing big partnerships, like one had with CBS, do you expect any changes to the business model at Right at Home that prospective franchisees need to be aware of?
You know what? That's a really great question, and it's really timely. So let me first talk about the call option that we have seen hit the news from a competitor. Yep. And I would say I do not ever see us moving to a call option kind of approach. That is, if you're reading the industry news, that approach is under attack, and I can understand why that would be. So I don't see that changing.
The person who typed the question just said, yay. Yay.
Yeah. I want to say we pride ourselves in having a really good working relationship with our franchise owners. And so I understand the reasoning behind saying, well, gosh, if someone's not willing to go move into a certain level of line of business, then that's the way in which a brand could say, well, then we're just going to take it back and we'll go into this new line of business. But we've always approached it to say we respect, as our franchisees do as well, this agreement that we're creating with each other through a franchise agreement, through a franchising relationship. And we want to be really supportive of that relationship. And so no call options. Are there minimums or expectations? Yes, there's expectations on both sides. And certainly if someone is struggling to meet those expectations, we're going to bend over backwards to try and help them figure out what can we do to help them support to get their business moving in the direction they want to go. Now, luckily, we don't have a lot of franchise owners that are in that scenario in terms of needing some additional assistance. But when they do, we're there to help them. But at the end of the day, we also don't want people to throw good money after bad, right? So we always have a good working coaching relationship, honest relationship, because at the end of the day, why we get up every day and come into the corporate offices to help our franchise owners build sustainable, profitable businesses, right? Yep. And that's what I love about franchising, is because our goals are completely aligned. And so we're not successful if our franchise network is not successful. So no change there. We continue to innovate though. So that's why these test kitchens are really important when I talk about company owned, because we recognize with everything changing so quickly in the industry, and there's lots of new technology coming in, different things that you can try. And we know we need to find a way to leverage technology with the challenge of enough caregivers out there. How can we supplement caregivers in the home, hands-on kind of care, with some additional support that maybe comes from a technology solution? Well, we want to be able to test that out and work out the kinks and get the economic model working in our test kitchens before we go and ask a franchise owner to do that, because the franchise owners, again, are there. That's their livelihood. That's how they're putting food on the table for themselves and their staff members and their caregivers. So we don't want to distract them with, oh, go try this. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, well, go try this. We want to be able to take lots of swings, because in innovation, you have to take a lot of swings. And we know we're going to have failures. We know we're going to miss the ball probably more often than we hit one.
Yeah.
But it's easier for us as the large brand to do those swings and take those lumps and learn from them versus asking someone that this is their sole livelihood and asking them to do that in their local community. So that's why the test kitchens are so important.
Got it. Okay. Next question. What is currently the biggest challenge for the industry, and what's going really well?
Yeah. So, biggest challenge. I always like to start with what's going well, but we'll end on the high note. So,
okay.
But I think even the challenges, to me, challenges are just opportunities that they're problems that we need to continue work on solving. So I don't ever view a challenge as something that you can't overcome. We just figure out how to go over, under, around, through that particular challenge. So I would say the biggest one, and that really is top of mind for everybody in the industry, is this caregiver shortage. And it really is, when you boil it down, it's really a math problem at the end of the day, because we now, starting in 2025, the first year of the baby boomers are going to be turning 80. And so we are just on the cusp of this kind of exacerbated growth of the population into the area of which they're most likely going to now start using our service, because we also know that 70% of all seniors at some point are going to need some care. And we also know that everybody wants to have care in the home. They would much rather be in their familiar surroundings than put into some institutional setting. Now, there's times when institutional settings may make sense, but again, as consumers and as individuals, we want to age at home. So we know that there's not an equal big boom of the population behind them. So our ratio of caregivers, or people that are under the age of 65 to those that are over 65, is quickly moving to a 1-to-1 ratio, and then it's going to be completely out of sync. So like a half of a person to an individual. And that creates challenges in terms of just enough workforce. So, but with that, though, then we focus a lot on, okay, if there is a limited workforce, how do we, of the workforce that's out there, have them associate with our brand, right? So how do we create in each of the local communities, how do we help our independently owned and operated offices be that employer of choice in their local market? So that's where we do a lot of best practice sharing to help actually be that employer of choice. We also, from a company corporate perspective, are looking at what are additional ways that we can help push applicants to the brand. And so by the brand fund, that the national marketing that's happening there, but also we have an initiative in 2023 where we're going to look at some third parties that gather applicants and that we can actually purchase some leads and push them out to the network as well. So we're going to try that and see if that also helps. But we've always said from the time this business model started, you got to always be hiring and always selling. So that hasn't changed. Yep. It's just tipped the scale differently. It used to be lots of caregivers, and I had to go out there and really sell hard and kind of explain what home care is. Well, now people understand what home care is. You still need to go out there and build relationships, but now it's tipped this way. And now I've got to focus more on the caregivers. But it can be overcome, and it's certainly not slowing down our growth for our offices across the network.
Yes.
So that's the biggest challenge. And when you think about the biggest opportunity, that's where it's like, oh my gosh, I can't really boil it down just to one, because there's so much opportunity out there for the same reasons of the changing dynamics of the population. There is so much need for the services that Right at Home provides, that we possibly can't get enough owners to come in and be able to meet all of that need. So that's really exciting. But I also look at the industry, and there's so much opportunity as healthcare is changing and more care is being pushed in the home, for us to have additional impacts on each individual's life as we think about this aging journey, and opportunities with using technology where we can actually get introduced to a family earlier in the process than maybe where we are today. Because today, many times it may be crisis mode, right? When they're looking to say, oh my gosh, mom just fell, or I just went home and saw mom is struggling, I need to bring someone in. Maybe we can start engaging with mom through this aging process. That's some of the innovation that we're starting to think about.
Yes. Okay. So that's a good segue into strategy.
Yeah.
So I personally have had a front row seat and have participated in a lot of meetings as of lately talking about the future. And that really is all encompassing of your role as the CEO. You're not thinking about the right here, right now. You're thinking of the future. So maybe just give our listeners a brief snapshot without giving away all the details, but just giving them some insight into all of the work that we have been doing talking about the future of this business, which is where we always want to be thinking when it comes to our franchise owners and, their businesses, their success, what's to come. We can't keep doing the exact same things and expect any kind of growth here at the corporate level or for our franchise owners. So maybe just give some, just a brief kind of summary of some of the things that we are discussing as far as the future of this business goes and how far into the future we are thinking.
Yeah, so I love talking about strategy, and we embarked on a process to put together a 3-year strategic roadmap for Right at Home. We kicked that off in the late May, soon after the heels of Home Improvement, which is our annual meeting, where we finally got to get back together with all of our franchise owners after a hiatus of a couple years due to the pandemic. But we started off with what we called listening sessions. And listening sessions were an opportunity for the leadership team to ask some probing questions about the aging journey. How could the Right at Home brand and our mission come to life in different ways? You as a consumer, when you think about yourself and aging, what do you want to have? Because the baby boomer consumer is different than the greatest generation that we've been serving for a long time. So, consumer preferences change. So we did these listening sessions with lots of different audiences, which was wonderful to just hear the different perspectives. So not only did we do listening sessions with the franchise network itself, so we had several Zoom calls where we invited franchisees to join in with us, and we just listened to them talk about what's going in their markets, what they see, what they envision, lots of ideas that they have. We also did that with the entire corporate staff. We did that with our board of directors. We did that with our founder, Allan Hager, who started the company. We got on a call with him and just picked his brain a little bit. And then we also just went out to industry leaders, not only individuals from our industry, from a healthcare, home care perspective, but broader out in the healthcare ecosystem, and looked at just some industries that aren't even related to home care and see what can we glean from there. Then we went into visioning sessions, and we actually did a 2-day visioning workshop with our Strategic Leadership Council. And that is a group of franchise owners that get elected by their regions and actually make a commitment to work with us at the corporate office on a regular basis in really helping frame up strategy, make sure that we're in tune with what are the needs of the overall network. And really in collaboration, we work together to ultimately continue to grow the brand. So that visioning then went into from the SLC into our own internal visioning session. And the byproduct of that was a 3-year strategic roadmap, which I'm excited to share that with the network later today in the town hall. I'm going to be hitting the highlights of that. We've already shared it with the SLC, and they were really excited to hear. But the 3 main areas are, we got to continue to grow, right? Because we want to continue to provide more service hours, because that means we're touching more lives. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. We want to touch lives in a very meaningful way. We know we need to innovate around technology and the business model. With just looking at the changing dynamics and reading the tea leaves, we're always thinking about how do we innovate around the business model and technology. So we've got some great ideas there that I won't go into details on. And then we certainly want to continue to expand the footprint, both, from a franchise distribution channel as well as that company owned, again, because that helps support the innovation that we want to do with the test kitchen side of things, but also expanding the reach so that we can touch lives in a more meaningful way. So we are really excited. We have a rally cry around our 3-year strategic roadmap. And we know that even we've got very detailed plans in terms of what we want to work on in 2023. And we've already aligned with the Strategic Leadership Council. So there's subcommittees across the network that will help us against those. And we've got measurements. And we've got plans for the next 2 years, but we know those get a little bit more blurry just because the industry is changing so much. So we always want to make sure that we're not falling in love with our strategy and ignoring what's happening and changing. So we know we need to ebb and flow as we continue to move towards our 3-year vision of where we want to be.
Awesome. And more to come on that, I'm sure, as we progress over the course of the next several months and we start, actually executing on this plan. I'm excited for it. I know our franchise owners will be as well. Okay, so a question just came in. Let's see here. Okay, can you talk to whether there are any plans to expand national accounts to help drive more business referrals with hospitals or other healthcare practitioners?
Yeah, so we are constantly looking at national providers, and we have a lot of national accounts right now, a lot of great work that happened over the last 2 or 3 years. And so those we continue to breathe life into because it depends. Certain regions maybe are getting more work coming out of those particular relationships, and then another relationship may be working harder in another region, but we're always looking at. And so we have a chief growth officer. We actually just brought on an additional executive onto the team, and that the focus is on really growth. So looking at how can we continue to partner with individuals out there that can drive value into the franchise network. But also then how can we think more broadly about this aging journey, and are there additional things that we can tap into that allows us to introduce the brand earlier in that aging process?
Okay, perfect. I was going to save this question for next time because you and I are visiting again one more time before the end of the year. It looks like that is on December 13th, but we have some people going through the education and approval process, hopefully to become franchise owners. They reach a point where they go through franchisee validation and visit with some of our existing franchise owners. Some of those owners may mention something called President's Circle. So we've got something coming up in January that it's something fun to celebrate the success of our franchise owners. So maybe just explain what that is, why we do it, maybe something that these prospects that are listening right now, it's something that they can look forward to one day as a franchise owner.
Yeah, so I would say it's one of the pinnacle awards that gets announced every year at our annual meeting. So we call it the President's Retreat, and it's actually an opportunity to look at, so it awards individuals from a growth perspective in terms of, revenue. How much revenue are they producing? How big, how many lives are they touching, and how big has their business grown to be? And we look at it in 2 different categories. Those that have multiple territories, they're grouped together. So if they have more than one, and then we also have the single territories. And there's a threshold to say, well, if you meet this level or above, then you actually get invited. But we also then have several awards across the system that are focused around quality and are focused around caregiver satisfaction and client satisfaction. So those award winners as well, and around marketing, brand ambassadors, there's a couple different other awards that we recognize, and the top winners there also get invited to this President's Retreat. And so then the retreat itself is in the thick of the winter, at least in Omaha, when it's in the thick of the winter in the late January or early February timeframe. We will then take the group to somewhere sunny and warm. So whether it's down in the Dominican or, Cancun or wherever the case may be, but then it's an all expense paid. So we pay to fly the owner and a guest down. And then they get to enjoy 4 nights in, a nice sunny, warm place. We do a lot of just, sharing the best practices while sitting by the pool. So it's really a fun event to get to know owners at a different level and to build some camaraderie across the network with people that are really moving and shaking in their local community. So it's something we really look forward to every year.
Yes. And we like to celebrate successes around here.
We love to celebrate.
That's just one example of many. Okay, Margaret, time flies when you're having fun. It's been 30 minutes. Do you have any closing thoughts for our listeners?
So, I just think, if you're listening to this now, we're getting ready to go into the Thanksgiving holiday next week. And this industry is something that I think is like a Thanksgiving every day, and that there's just blessings every day that I hear from franchise owners in terms of the impact they're having on either their staff's lives, their caregivers' lives, or the clients they're taking care of and the families. And so it's a time when you're thinking about, gosh, what am I thankful for? And I'm just thankful to be a part of this brand, because the mission that we are living is something that's really, really special. And so if you choose for this to be something that you want to now invest your time and energy into, you'll get some great rewards, because it is a really wonderful industry.
Yes, I agree.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much, Margaret. I love these conversations, and I know our listeners really enjoy them, and they're thankful that you take the time to do them. So I thank you for that as well.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you.